call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I want to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the land on which we are meeting is in the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'll ask for motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on February 26, 2024 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have no delegations this evening and no public hearings. We'll move right into Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. This evening, we are going to be reviewing our audit service plan and for completion of the 2023 financial and consolidated financial statements. And you may recall we had this in committee last month, so hopefully you've had a chance to review the plan. The City of Portage has engaged with BDO as our external auditors to provide audit processes to review the city's financial processes and prepare the audited year and consolidated state financial statements. The interim audit processes were completed in November 2023, and the final field audit work will be completed in April of 2024. The draft consolidated financial statements will be available no later than June 2024, and final statements will be presented to our council at that time for approval in order to meet the provincial deadlines. And the key point here in the plan is that in comparing last 2022 to 2023 audit service plans, there are no significant changes or additions of note. And the letter of engagement found in Appendix A of the audit planning report was signed by the Director of Corporate Service in January of 2024. And therefore, I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the audit service plan with BDO for the completion of 2023 financials and consolidated financial statements.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has a couple of reports to present tonight, reports to Council, and the first one being a Wastewater Treatment Divisional Annual Report and Biosolids Report for 2023. So what we have here is each year a report detailing the performance, operation, and maintenance activities of the water pollution control facility and the wastewater collection and conveyance system is prepared and submitted. Once accepted by the City Council, the report will be filed with the Manitoba Environment and Climate Change, as well as posted on the city's website for public access. A summary report of the annual land application of biosolids is also required to be submitted. Both are attached as a separate document. And there's some wonderful information here and many, many pages of detailed information that will be on our website. So it is my administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie accept the Wastewater Treatment Divisional Annual Report and the land application of biosolids report as presented, and authorize the submission to Manitoba Environment and Climate, as well as posting to the city website. I so move.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Porter. Any questions on those? All those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Worship. To that point, there's another report to Council, and that's a public system reports for public water system reports, for 2023. So the analysis is that Manitoba Conservation and Climate Change Environmental Stewardship Division requires an annual public water system report to be submitted and available publicly. Once accepted by City Council, the report will be posted on the city's website. Administration has also prepared the 2023 Water Treatment Data Report. Both are attached as separate documents. So I move, and the administrative recommendation is that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie accept the 2023 Public Water System Annual Report and the 2023 Water Treatment Plant Annual Data Report, and authorize administration to forward same to the Manitoba Conservation and Climate Change, Environmental Stewardship Division, and post the reports on the city website. There's a wealth of information here, and it's very detailed, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Porter. Any questions or comments on those? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Councillor Nichols. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transportation has nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety Committee has nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. We have no deferred business. We'll move right into new business. We have Tokata Ventures, Inc., formerly referenced as Kenmare Developments Development Agreement. Its Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, before you, you have the consideration to approve or not approve the development agreement with Tokata Ventures Limited Incorporated, formerly referenced as Kenmare Developments. And I see the alternatives to accept the agreement, decline, or to counter proposed terms to the development agreement. Tokata Ventures Incorporated, formerly referenced as Kenmare Developments Incorporated, plans to construct a 4-story mixed-use building consisting of a main floor for commercial use and upper floors for multiple family residential units on the lots legally described as 1525 Saskatchewan Avenue West and 7 15th Street Southwest. The city has agreed to provide a required conditional use permit and a variation order subject to the developer entering into a development agreement, which has now been prepared. The development agreement provides for the following highlights. Number 1, the number of residential units being constructed shall not exceed 54. Secondly, the developer is responsible for paving the back lane with asphalt from 16th Street Southwest to 15th Street Southwest, and for maintaining and clearing that lane to standards as provided by the city. Thirdly, the developer is responsible for installing a catch basin in the parking lot adjacent to the back lane and connecting it to the city's Saskatchewan Avenue drainage system. Fourthly, the developer is responsible for clearing the entrance of their parking lot along 16th Street Southwest of any snow that may be pushed onto it during city snow clearing operations. It's the administrative recommendation, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the proposed development agreement with Tokata Ventures Incorporated, formerly referenced as Kenmare Developments Incorporated.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? I'll just make a comment that I'm definitely in favor of entering into this development agreement. We've seen the sketches of this project that we're hoping to happen on Saskatchewan Avenue. I think fits right into our Saskatchewan Avenue improvements. So we hope Tokata Ventures Inc. will move forward with it, and happy to enter into this with them. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next item of new business is a request for extension for variation PC 8-24 Melco Developments Limited. And that is City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council in front of you is just a simple request for an extension of a variation that was already approved back in March the 27th of 2023. You'll see the original order that's there for your record. You'll also see the site plan and the sketch for the area indicated. So the issue, of course, is just to allow an extension to the original variation for Melco Developments Limited, of which originally was PC 10-23. And what the variation was for was to vary the front yard requirements of 7.5 to be reduced to 6 to allow for a uniform look in the subdivision and larger rear yards. With that said, unless there's any questions, administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the request of Melco Developments Limited to extend the original variation order of PC 10-23 at the properties on 10, 12, 14, 18, and 5, 7, 9, 17 Sharon Place, which are legally described as lots 6 to 9, Block 2, Plan 53601, and lots 8 and 12, 13, and 14, Block 3, Plan 53601 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
It's moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments? I just have a question to planning, maybe through administration, is when, like, so we're asking, I'm just curious, like, when does it end? Like, as soon as they break ground on these, or does, like, do you get what I'm asking? Like, when we have to get an extension, like,
Yeah, so the extension is good for 1 year.
Okay.
And at that point, they need to reapply. So they applied, I believe it was in March 27th. So they're getting that in now. Once the ground is broken, then that'll start moving into their permits for building.
okay.
So at this point, it's an extension on their variance of the lots.
And once they break ground, then it's a new thing
It'll
that
be
they're
a
under.
whole new start to what we're doing.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Another item of new business, treated water supply system assessment for Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, what you have in front of you is a report. It's for information only at this time. And what it is a report on the treated water supply assessment for our wonderful city of Portage here. So the city of Portage la Prairie is required by the Manitoba Drinking Water Safety Act to conduct a treated water supply system assessment every 5 years. As per Public Water System Operating License, PWS 08147-02A, the final report was to be submitted to the province before March 1st, 2024, and Stantec has done that wonderful work for us. And it's there for you to review, and any questions, we'll bring it forward at next council, and that's what I have in front of you. Thank you.
It was just for information, yeah, so it won't come back to council. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
I won't bring that back. And
You have a question, Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship, and maybe through the chair to administration. There's a number of recommendations here from Stantec, and just like financially, are these, I know municipalities have always been concerned some of the costs of these meeting these regulations and things. Can you just provide maybe some commentary about these, or is there new regulations been done, or is this normal practice to have these regulations? I mean, there's just a lot of recommendations here, and just wondering on the cost of a lot of these things.
Sure. A lot of these recommendations are, I should point out, they are just recommendations at this point. There's nothing that was found to be critical or of concern for our drinking water. This is kind of going forward. Most of these were already pointed out in previous evaluations of our system, and that is, a lot of those are captured in the plant expansion that we are preparing for right now. So I'll say a majority of them are already considered in our budget for the expansion. Others can't be addressed until the expansion has been completed, and so we'll be looking at those once the initial work is done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Great. We have no items of old business, so we'll adjourn council at 6:14 p.m. and we will move right into committee. I'll call committee to order at 6:14 p.m. Start with Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee has no report this evening, but I would like to give an FCM update if that's appropriate at this point.
Sure, since you
Okay.
talked a lot about money, I think so. It fits.
Well, it may not be all good news, but as you know, I attended as the FCM, one of the reps from Manitoba in Prince George recently, the FCM board meeting. And I'll just give you a couple of the highlights. There was a lot discussed there, but first of all, on the new generational program for infrastructure, the federal, provincial, municipal, at this point, there is no incoming new program for federal, provincial infrastructure. It was announced that there would be something at this point. At this point, there is none. We expressed serious concern about that at the FCM and asked to accelerate the lobbying on that, because that, at least even for Portage, will be a real problem not to have any federal money. The good news is that FCM in their pre-budget submission did put in an envelope, specific recommendation for water and wastewater. So it's highlighted as a real need here in Manitoba, and I think that that'll be good for Portage as well. So I think the recommendation is in there from FCM. We just hopefully we'll see something in the federal budget, which is April 16th, by the way. They pushed it back. On the gas tax or the community building fund, they're negotiating a 10-year agreement with the provinces. There is a real concern there's going to be some strings attached. It won't be as easy to get as in the past. FCM again is lobbying very hard to keep the program. It's a good program. Use it for whatever you want, and hopefully they are successful. So at this point, they are looking at a new 10-year agreement, but there may be some strings attached, which some municipalities will find potentially difficult to meet. And we had a discussion on the new municipal growth revenue, and that report is being, at this point, not released because of these previous two things. They really want to accelerate the lobbying on those two things, the infrastructure and the gas tax, before releasing a report on new revenues. The one thing I will share with my council colleagues, and when the report is released, there's an excellent, when you get the report, rationale for why municipalities need alternate forms of growth revenues. Municipal revenues are going down. Growth revenues like PST, GST are going up, and it's just not sustainable. We need a new model of municipal revenue. And when you read the report, it just gives such a compelling case for having new revenues. On a couple of other things, RCMP, of course, will continue to lobby to have more input with the contracts that we pay for as municipalities. So it's in the pre-budget recommendation from FCM. And as I say, the federal budget will be April 16th. There is a lot of tightening of the monies right now in Ottawa, and they're concerned that there may not be a whole lot of new spending for things like infrastructure, but they will continue to lobby right till April 16th. I believe there's a toolkit they've sent to all municipalities to look at, trying to help FCM with a push with the federal government. The last thing I'll just report on, FCM, while we were there, it was International Women's Day, and issued a statement on trying to alleviate some of the concerns, and elected officials in general are facing with harassment, death threats, and so on. So they're looking at and particularly women in municipal politics who face some terrible things. So I think this is something that FCM is going to take on with all orders of government to try to make, and I know all of us know this, some of the public can at times be very difficult, but I was very proud of FCM to put that statement to say we need to do something about this kind of thing of harassment of elected officials, and particularly women who serve in our communities. We need to stop this kind of behavior. So those were the things, the highlights of FCM and what was discussed. It was a good board meeting, but the overall tone, Your Worship, was it's tough times right now for municipalities in Ottawa, so we have to really accelerate our lobbying. It's just seems the federal government, all parties seem to feel municipalities can manage with the monies they have, and so we have to make the case and continue to make the case. So I'd entertain any questions, Your Worship, but that's my report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, Councillor Massey? I just have a comment that I just really appreciate you representing not only Portage but Manitoba at that seat, and I think you do a great job of not only bringing our concerns to them but making sure that we're well informed, and just appreciate the time you put into that. So thank you, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yep. Okay, City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report in committee tonight, but I certainly do encourage any of my colleagues, if they've sit on a board or have any association with any of the groups that would be related to City Planning Economic Development Committee, feel free to ask or comment.
Thank you. Okay.
Seeing none, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just mention that the Parks Committee had their meeting a few days ago. It's been a while because we don't do a whole lot in the wintertime, but now that spring seems to be upon us one more time this year, that now that the skate park is finished, we're going to be looking for sod and landscaping, and we might be out there doing some fundraising for that.
Awesome.
And if anyone else has anything related to my committee, now's the time.
Anyone else? Just a comment. I've spent a lot of time in the schools in the last little bit and talking about things that they love in Portage la Prairie, and there's a real excitement for a full season of skate park this year. So it's great, and we look forward, as I think I can speak that as a council in a city, to working with the Parks Committee in the future on new things. So congratulations on that. Waterworks Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report at this time of the meeting. I will say that spring is around the corner and break up, and our river's going to be tasking us here down the road. I hope that things go well, and so I know that those folks they'll do a wonderful job again in making sure that our water runs, and it's just an upfront thank you for that.
Thank you. Any questions for Waterworks? No? Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transportation has nothing to report, but I would like to comment on a great job. And thanks to our administration for all your updates that was provided to council during the last storm, and the great quick job of a 2-day cleanup through the whole city. That was probably, we wouldn't see that in very many other cities. So I just want to thank operations, and what a great job he did. Okay, I do have one question, and it's to Your Worship, to administration. It's the question: how do we deal with storm drains and our winter and our winter freeze and our spring thaw? And when things go wrong, what do we follow through on, or what do we look at during drain breaks or storm breaks?
Perfect. Ms. Liquid-Jobin, would you like to answer that?
Sure. So right now, as when we're getting these freeze-thaw cycles, we can have problems with the water getting away. Like today, I think you could see down Lauren Avenue where we're having it back up. So all day today, our crews have been out with the steamers. So they put steam down into the drains to help melt the ice and then get everything running. One nice thing to note was the guys have commented that all the drains on Saskatchewan Avenue are running well without them having to do anything. So,
Nice.
so those were designed well and are doing the trick. I think because they're much larger and mostly deeper, it definitely helps. Any other questions?
Yeah, just, is there anything that clogs our drains or it causes?
Sure. So, so what can happen is with like leaf litter and other types of things that flow into the grates. So it can be really helpful if citizens are noticing that it's backing up, can help to clear those leaves out of the way. That will help getting them running. But sometimes it's ice, and there's not a lot that people can do when the ice is down inside the catch basin. So that's when we need to have the steamers out.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any questions from that?
I just have a comment too. I have to talk about this snowfall, and it hit us pretty hard, pretty fast. We went from green grass to a lot of snow. Our city staff did a great job of clearing and working hard. I just give them lots of thanks. And I couldn't help but not comment too on the snow removal companies out there that work in our city, right? That are also working 24/7 and out there early and digging people out. They do a fantastic job in Saskatchewan Avenue and businesses keeping everything clear. So So thanks to them. And then also just to citizens who stepped up and, helped their neighbors, and maybe somebody who couldn't do their own yard or their own driveway and helped out doing that. I think we have these small few days that this happens, and this year we've been lucky with how infrequent it's been, but it really sort of shows how when everything's working together, when something like this happens, how it can go with ease. So thanks to everybody, and we'll give kudos to council too for improving our snow removal process too. So thanks everybody for that. Great job. Okay, public.
Oh, sorry, and I guess that's my report, but I just wanted to add on to one thing that, I was away for those couple days during that storm, and I was one of those lucky people that had a wonderful neighbor that cleared my driveway. So thanks, Guy.
Nice. Okay, Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last week, tail end of February, Mayor Knox and City Manager Nathan Pito and myself went to a conference in Saskatoon that was hosted by the City of North Battleford to discuss the Crime Severity Index. We've all heard of it around this table, and for those of you who don't know what it is, it was developed about 15 years ago, and it was the police chiefs from municipal and RCMP detachments that had requested that Statistics Canada collect information so they knew where to allocate resources and funding. And since then, there has been changes in the different metrics as to how these crime statistics are recorded. And what the Crime Severity Index has turned into is more of just a report that gives media an opportunity to grab it and write a story with it. And so we had met with 10 other municipalities in Saskatoon. There were city councilors, city managers, and mayors. There was also First Nations leaders that were there, and just to discuss how this is affecting our community, because the reality is it is the same 15 or so cities that always make the top 10 on this list. And what we met about was how can we change this, not to get us out of the spotlight, but to just give a more broad picture of what is actually going on. And I thought it was very productive, and I just think that we will be meeting again with these communities, and that's about all I have to say on it for now. I don't know, Mayor Knox or Nathan, if you have anything else to add.
I think I can tell you that since I've been on council and I was public in your position before, is that this crime severity index just has bothered me from the beginning. But what really resonated with me in Saskatoon and hadn't before is we really understood what the purpose of it, what was intended for, and how it's not being used for that. And so what it's turned into is a ranking system that pits communities against communities, and it was never intended for that. And Stats Canada was in attendance at this meeting, and what they talked about is, I really believe that they heard what we had to say, because part of what they do, and they have a mandate to do no harm. And they heard that this crime severity index is doing harm. It's doing harm to our communities when it comes to economic development. It's doing harm to our communities when it comes to perceived public safety. And so I'm really positive with the conversations that went on, and that we continue to lobby with these other communities and get more communities involved, that we'll see changes to that. Even when we met with our local media, when we got back, just the conversation we had with them, where he was shaking his head going, wow, we don't want to be a part of doing more harm to the communities we live in. So I think us continuing to be strong voices in this, that we'll see change.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Thank you for that. That is all I have for my report this evening.
Thank you. Anyone have anything else?
I just applaud Mayor Knox and Councillor Doyle and Nathan Peto, our city manager, for doing this. This has been bugging me for 25 years that I've been in Portage, and you're right. You hit it right on the head. They're supposed to be a neutral Statistics Canada group. They're not supposed to. In your comments, Mayor Knox, about that's great. You put, and I just hope it leads to a better system, that Portage is not always tagged with this index.
Thank you. We'll adjourn committee at 6:30 p.m. Thanks everyone for coming out.